Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento. And I'll tell you what, so many of us, we get caught up working on or in our businesses rather than on our businesses. And that's why I'm so excited about today's guest, because that's just one of many nice things that I can say about him, is that this is somebody who has a very strategic business mind, because he has seen all different sides of business strategy, of business growth, of sales, of accounting, of financial decisions, and he's culminated all of that into a business that he co-founded with one of his best friends, but also in the way that he helps his clients beyond just what they do for work. So let me introduce you to today's guest. His name is Garrett Paul. Garrett has been immersed in sales since the age of 18, rising through the ranks of the kitchen equipment industry to help drive and manage $16 million in product sales from 2017 to 2021. After this success, he relocated to Houston, Texas, where he partnered with his childhood best friend named Matt to co-found the Jones Group CPA and Business Advisory. In his role, Garrett is passionate about redefining the CPA client relationship. His mission is to break the mold of the unapproachable seasonal CPA who only surfaces at tax time. We all know that. And part of it is due to us. Part of us, we only reach out to financial service providers around tax time. And I think Garrett's going to dispel a lot of that thought behind that in today's episode. Instead, he focuses on building genuine year-round partnerships with clients, fostering meaningful connections that go beyond mere transaction. And I know that what you're going to find in our conversation today is part of that relationship is Garrett cares about seeing businesses succeed. So we're going to learn a lot from him today, not just about financial services, but especially about business growth. So I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Garrett Paul. All right, Garrett, I am so very excited that you're here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Brian. I'm happy to be here.
Heck yes, there's so much good stuff that we're going to get into, but it seems to me like you genuinely love business at so many different levels. So let's start with you personally. Take us beyond the bio. Who's Garrett? How'd you start doing all these cool things?
Yeah, so I really got started through my dad's business back in Oregon on the West Coast, and really cut my teeth in business, working up in the kitchen equipment industry. You know, we did a lot of products for, people like big companies like Starbucks, of course, through other contractors, but big companies like Starbucks, big restaurant chains, Dutch Bros, if you've heard of them. So did a lot of really fun work there. And, we were in manufacturing. And I think, honestly, being in business, just, in my decade or so that I've been in business, manufacturing, man, if you can make it manufacturing, you can make it in almost anything. And it makes our accounting business just look easy, honestly. So that's my background.
Yeah, I love that. You talk about manufacturing. Garrett, I would argue if you can make it in sales, you can make it in anything. And I think it's so interesting. We don't see that sales background as the springboard to a CPA and business advisory firm very frequently. But I think you probably bring a much needed skill set to that industry, because a lot of accountants, they love the numbers, they love the books, they love all of those things. Talk to us about that unique value add that you personally bring to the table with that background in sales.
Yeah, so let me be clear too to the listeners. I'm not a CPA or an accountant. My business partner, Matt Jones, is, and that's what makes us such a dynamic duo. Of course, like I mentioned, my background is in knowing and understanding how to run a business. And, you'd be surprised. A lot of CPAs actually don't know how to run a business. I'm very fortunate to work with someone like Matt who actually does more than most. And it's really made us a really fun, like I said, dynamic duo where I can bring in new business, create those client relationships, focus on kind of operations at a high level, and make sure the team is getting things done for these clients. And then Matt, of course, is the expert in the details. So making sure returns are getting done, the accounting is getting done for our clients, and they're being serviced, the best way possible.
Yeah, that said, Garrett, one thing I really appreciate about dynamic co-founding duos like what you and Matt have going on, is that not only do you guys complement each other, but I would argue that you both learn from each other and use that in your own roles. For example, you're not a CPA and you're not necessarily the one providing those services, but you talk about those services. You guide people through those services. You obviously, through Matt, have such a deep understanding of the value add that you guys bring to your clients. What has that looked like? Because I feel like when people want to talk about sales, they underestimate understanding the industry, understanding their clients, understanding at a really deep and core level that value add that they bring to the table. What did that process look like between you and Matt to onboard in a way that both of you have all the tools and skills you need to successfully serve people?
Yeah, so Matt, kind of touching a little bit on the last point too, mentioned it, Matt has taught me so much about being compliant in business and understanding what needs to get done. And then I believe I've helped him strategize internally and making things more efficient and making sure that things are getting done when they need to get done. We've really complemented each other very well. And I believe, the second part of that question was getting clients onboarded properly. When I said Matt taught me so much, there's a lot of clients that, for business efficiency reasons, Matt doesn't even need to speak with them until maybe he starts preparing the return or this team starts preparing a return. And as a business, that's made it really effective to where he's not being bogged down with one client for multiple days on end. He's able to service more people because of the help that I'm able to do, as well as our office admin kind of helps me in that area as well. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, not only did you answer it, but I'm excited to go a little bit deeper there because it makes me fascinated by the conversations that you have, because it's clear to me that you guys, obviously, any CPA firm can help businesses in so many different ways, but just knowing how much of an emphasis you place on those year-round client relationships, it's clear to me that you view these benefits far more than just tax season, which I think more and more of us need to shift to that mindset with regards to financial service providers. But Garrett, it also makes me think that in your conversations with potential clients, you probably get into many of those benefits and why they should care about this relationship with their CPA firm. What do those conversations focus on?
Yeah, we look to help our clients in any way we can, and it's not just with strategy, but it's also with billing. We've taken a different a shift kind of to what the typical CPA firm will do for clients. So typically, most people, you'll have your CPA and you'll pay them, whatever you pay them in April or March to file your taxes, or if you extend, it's in September or October, or taxes done, or maybe it's your bookkeeping month to month. Well, we took a different approach, and we took not only your bookkeeping month to month, but we'll also split up your tax fee over 12 months, as well as CFO and advisory services, if that's something you want to work with us with. And we've actually, think about it this way, a small business, rather than paying thousands of dollars in 1 month, it's a few $100 a month. And that's a much easier pill to swallow. So helping clients at an advisory level and making sure that they're in compliance, but also, hey, we will help you out and you can make payments rather than just a bulk charge at one time.
Yeah, it's a great model, and it's really customer focused, which is, I feel like, such a theme in what you do, but also it's going to be a theme in our conversation today. But I do want to focus on that business advisory side of things, because you heard me tease at the very top of today's episode in the intro the fact that what I really appreciate about your personal approach is that working on the business instead of simply in the business. That's, of course, where advisory comes in, and you have a vantage point that you can bring to it that a lot of us business owners, when we are inside of it, we can't read the label from inside the jar. Garrett, what does that look like, especially for, let's call out newer business owners? And you can talk about newer, but also existing and people who have been in business for a while, but especially those newer business owners who think to themselves, I don't know what someone would look at in my business. Like, my numbers are very simple. I don't see where those gains are going to come from. What's that advisory side look like?
Yeah, so a lot of what I touch on in business is stuff I've learned from other professionals. A lot I've learned from my dad, and a lot secondhand I've actually learned from my dad working with Tony Robbins and a guy named Keith Cunningham. So when I say working on the business rather than in the business, it's not my quote. I just want to be clear. A lot of the quotes I use, I'm using them secondhand from others. I'm learning from others, and I tell everyone to learn as much as they can from people that have been there and done that, 'cause it's the best way to do it. to answer your question, when it comes to advisory, I think, another thing I tell clients a lot is if you don't understand your numbers, you're not able to make decisions. And if you look at a P&L or a balance sheet and your financials just as a whole, and they're not telling you a story, then they're probably screwed up, and we need to figure out what's going on. We tell clients all the time, how are you going to be able to make decisions without data? Right? So without any statistics, you got to look at your financial sheets as a statistic. If I don't know any of the stats of my business, how am I supposed to pivot and make different decisions?
Yeah, that said, what sort of numbers, Garrett? A lot of people will be listening to that and they'll say, yeah, I've got data in so many different ways. I very frequently think about all the data that we're all sitting on that we don't take advantage of. Google Analytics. Unfortunately, I never log into my Google Analytics, and it's such a powerful vehicle. Obviously, you've kind of teased, the P&L statement, the balance sheet, all of those things are important, but what are those numbers that you're really looking at or looking into in a business?
Yeah, I'll give you a perfect example of a situation that I was working with a client on. They're actually a digital marketing company, and that's what makes this story so funny. And we've had conversations, so you know who you are if you're listening. This is a brag on us working together. This gentleman has a digital marketing company, and I noticed looking at his P&L from, I believe it was 23. He spent about $45,000 on digital marketing, advertisements, social media, things like that. And then we fast forward to 2024, he dipped from $45,000 in spend to $3,000, and his revenue dropped. To me, that was an easy equation. So I said, hey, did you even notice this? And this is another point that I want to bring up to listeners. He didn't even have any idea because his wife is the one that handles. And I don't care what your role is in your business. If you are managing the business to any extent, it can't just be your wife or your accountant that understands the numbers. You have to understand your numbers. If he was reviewing his financial statements and realized that, let's say at the 6-month mark in the year in June or July, he could have pivoted and put a bunch of money into marketing and maybe not had that dip in revenue. So that would be a good example.
Yeah, which makes me realize that this is an active engagement. I think that so many of us treat this as a passive thing, that at the end of the year, we hand off all of our transactions, all of our information, our financial documents to our tax preparers or our accountants or our bookkeepers, and they make sense of it retroactively. It seems to me like you're talking about a very active approach of, hey, let's assess this. I don't know. Tell me more about the timeline. Do you believe it's monthly? Do you believe it's quarterly? And then we make decisions from there, future and past decisions. What is it that we do in those sessions?
I think at least at a bare minimum, you can do it more, of course, and that's great. At a bare minimum, you should be reviewing your financials every single month. We meet with clients. Matt is a CFO for a lot of our clients, provides CFO services, and he'll meet with them just once a month, and that has been incredibly beneficial. A lot of our top clients meet with Matt once a month, and I think for what we do and for what we can provide, I think that's perfect. We can definitely meet with people more. It hasn't been a need quite yet, but yeah, once a month is I would say pretty common.
Yeah, which obviously speaks to when you're talking to somebody once a month, you start to build that relationship. And Garrett, I know that part of your side of the business is that relationship building, not just with your existing clients, but I would imagine you're also managing a pipeline of dream clients or ideal clients or soon to be clients. What does that relationship management look like for you? Because just knowing that you have that background in sales, it's probably something that seems like, I call this out on air all the time, seems like it would probably come natural to you. But of course, it's things that you've practiced. It's things that you've perfected. It's things that you've made a habit of doing. So talk to us about, what does relationship building look like in your side of the world?
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel. I talk a lot about this. I actually put my sales strategy on my YouTube channel. I've made a video on that. I believe in playing the long game. I don't believe in the used car salesman. When they come in the door, don't let them leave until they've bought a car. I I don't agree with that at all. I don't think you can get away with that nowadays. And I don't think you're doing things the best in doing that. My strategy is simply listen. So when I have a call with somebody, I immediately started off, let's say it's a prospect, I immediately started off by saying, hey, Brian, I'm really happy that you on this call with me. I want to hear more about your business. Tell me what's going on. And then, Brian being the prospect, he wants to talk about him, but he doesn't want to talk about him, but people like to talk about themselves, right? So if Brian talks for 5 minutes, I've won. I've done my job. I've got a ton of data, a ton of information. If I got on a call with Brian and you said, if I introduced myself with a bunch of services, right? And then you go, well, I thought we were meeting about something else. I may have just gone on about something that you're not even interested in. So by giving you the opportunity, the prospect, to first say, hi, my name is Brian. My business is struggling. I really need help with my accounting. Well, then I'm not even going to talk about tax, right? Until you ask, I'm going to talk about accounting because that's what you wanted to get on this call for. So listening to your clients and your prospects is going to give you the answers to the test. It's really simple, and people make it really difficult. Nothing drives me crazier than when I get on a call and people just start spewing about all the things they can do and how amazing they are. Right. So that's what I really do on a lot of prospect calls. I let them talk first.
Yeah, I love that, especially because, Garrett, it's also simpler for us. Like, that's a way easier approach, is just to listen. And you absolutely hit the nail on the head, is that anytime we ask people, yeah, what's going on your side of the world, people do love to fill that space in and then let that guide. That's clearly the things that they care about. Whenever I'm at social events, Garrett, my question, I don't ask them like, how are you doing? How's work? I say, what are you excited about right now? I'd rather them tell me what it is that they want to talk about. If they're not excited about work, let's not talk about work. If they're excited about their favorite sports team, let's go there with them. I want to go back, though, because you use that analogy that I feel like we all pick on in the world of business, of used car salesmen and them walking off the lot, which, let's face it, when we have this relationship-based approach, a lot of it is we actually walk them off the lot happily. We escort them off the lot because now's not the time to sell to them. What does that follow-up process look like? Is it a set of tools that you have up your sleeves as a really effective CRM? Are there follow-up touch points that you always lean on and that are effective? What's that look like?
Yeah, so I actually use a very uncommon method, I think, for a CRM. It is a software. It's called Trello. I've probably used it. We're in 2025. I think I've used Trello since 2017 or 2018. It's incredibly productive. I can leave comments in people's cards. Typically, I give people some time, right? So if I first talk to them, I'll request some documents from them. I might follow up in a few days. But once I've done that first follow them a full 2 weeks, I don't know. I guess I just, as time's gone on, I don't have a need to be pushy. I don't want to be pushy. I want people to make a decision that's best for them. And, a lot of the time, I want to kind of touch on this too. We've got a referral network. We've started a networking group, and I'll give you just an example of how some calls might be. I kind of touched on the last question too. If someone gets on a call and they want to talk about, I'm really looking for a financial advisor. Well, they might not even be ready to talk to us. We're not financial advisors. So I have a referral partner that I'll refer them to, and I won't even make the call about me at that point. I will make it about my referral partner. So I think making it about others is just important, because the good karma is just going to come right back.
Yeah, Garrett, I love that you shouted out Trello. Same as you. I've been using it for almost a decade at this point. It is so simple. It's also free. And I've used it for so many different purposes. It's cool how much you can customize it, but without needing to do a ton of work. ClickUp is super involved. None of those things. Trello, anyone can start using it totally free. So I love that shout out. But what I really love strategically, and I'm super appreciative of you exposing our audience to this, is the power of that referral network. I think that this is way too understated overstated of a strategy as business owners. And part of our founding philosophies behind this show is a rising tide lifts all boats, is that we as entrepreneurs, we have the ability to bring everybody with us when we succeed. Talk to us more about that referral network, because it's clear to me that it's an intentional strategy on your part, but it's also a relationship-based strategy. How do you identify these partners? How do you find them? Is it something that's formal, like you've got paperwork involved in it, or how does that work?
Yeah, so when Matt and I started our business, we really hit networking hard. And I think it was the start of 2023. We joined a couple of groups. I think it was, we joined a couple of groups, and I just met a ton of people and I retained all their information. And I'll never forget, that was about a year and a half went by, maybe 16 months or so. And I was laying in bed, and I don't know why, but the best ideas sometimes come right before I'm about to doze off. And I remember I was dozing off, and I thought, oh my gosh, I've got this giant list of people. I should start my own networking group and start out with this list of people. And I sprung up out of bed really quick, ran into we were in a 2-bedroom apartment at the time. The second bedroom was my office. I run into the office and I write down on a sticky note, start a networking group. Put it on my keyboard. Next day, got to work on it. I think about 60 days later, we hosted our first event, and that was June or July of 24. So we're over a year old now, and we've also got a private board of directors group, which is about 10 or 11 people paying monthly to be a part of this group, and we do a lot of really awesome things. I mean, we'll have some clients that one of us will start working with, and next thing you know, 3 or 4 people out of the 10 or 11 people, they're now working with this person. So it's become really, really powerful. And I'll give this advice too. One of the things that you can do to grow your network and really impress people is, you might notice sometimes if things are slow in your business, a lot of the time I call it chumming the waters. So what I'll do is I'll just take, let's say I have a carpet cleaner and a window cleaner. The bad example, but you'll get my analogy. I might just say, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Referral Partners. I want to connect you. And I'll just put a joint email together and just say, I'll give a little bio. Hey, I've really appreciated this person. I've really appreciated this person. And I'll just put them together. Next thing you know, they start working together. And again, like I said earlier, the good karma comes back. So I'll just chum the waters once in a while and just make a random connection for people. They'll appreciate it, and hopefully they get some business out of it.
Yeah, and you know what else is true, Garrett, is they're always going to talk about whatever the fruits of their partnership are. They're always going to be like, man, Garrett introduced us. It's so cool how we both knew Garrett, and that's exactly what ended up. And the cool thing from your perspective is all the trickle-down impacts of that. These people that you're introducing to each other go on and serve so many customers together, work on projects together. Those projects are attributed to Garrett, you as a connector. That is a value in the marketplace, and I think that people forget. There are multi-billion-dollar companies. Let's look at Uber. What is Uber's value add? Uber's never picked up a passenger. Uber merely links passengers with drivers. They are simply a connector, and there's so much value that comes from being a connector. Garrett, it transcended even just from your postcard of, I want to start a networking group. That's all the good that you're doing, but you as that central focal point, you as that connector are bringing value. What do you do in those networking group? Is this a monthly like Google Meet? Everybody just comes and they just hang out and things organically happen? Is there some structure to it? I love this approach. I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah, so we trade off every month. So 1 month we'll do a dinner, 1 month we'll do a luncheon. So what we do with the dinner, we've got we're in Texas, right? So we got to have some barbecue. So we have a barbecue caterer that comes out every month. We also have a bartender that comes out every month. Luckily, I mentioned a financial advisor earlier. I've partnered with one of my best friends who's a local financial advisor, and luckily we get this awesome with a TV. We also get a conference room so we can host private events there as well with just our 10, 11 people that I mentioned. So we do that every month as well. But they're really cool because people can come out, and for $25, you get dinner, a couple drink tickets, and just some great connections. And, a year ago, and we're averaging about 20 to 25 people now the last few months coming every single dinner. So it's super powerful, and I couldn't do it without the partners in the group.
Yeah, Garrett, here I am asking you about Google Meet or Zoom, but I love the fact that you guys are doing this in person. That is a million times cooler, and I think that we need to go back to so much more of that. Obviously, geography is a limiting factor there, but kudos to you and Matt for hustling your way when you guys first started, being in those local networking groups, meeting people face to face. There's so much value in that as well. I want to squeeze this question in because time is flying by with you, and I always love hearing different entrepreneurs and business owners' perspectives on this. How's AI factoring into the work that you guys do? Obviously, on Matt's side of the world, I would imagine that he's using it in some really creative ways. But Garrett, you guys have really cool separation of duties. How are you personally leveraging AI, either in the work you do, in your workflows, or just the way that you're thinking about business?
Yeah, so a lot of proposals that I'll send to might use to start out with AI. I actually did another podcast episode with a good friend of mine. AI to me is the start. It's not the finished product, right? So if you think about it in football terms, AI should get you to within the red zone at best. And the red zone would be the 20-yard line and into the end zone, right? It might get you to the 1-yard line at times. But I use it a lot for drafting giant emails, maybe an email that I'm going to send out to all of our clients, a mass email, social media post. Here's a transcript of a video I just produced. Write me a caption. Like, that saves so much time. I'm so not creative at writing captions, and so that's been a huge advantage. I know I'm not using it as much as you can, but it's just what I need it for, right? So it's been a giant benefit. It totally saves me time, and I think we pay for ChatGPT now. I highly recommend just pay for it because you get a better product out of it. And if you use it every day like me, it's worth the $40 a month or whatever it is.
Yeah, even better, Garrett, $20 a month. That's what I tell everybody. I'm like, it's literally the best $20 a month that you're going to spend. It will give you those superpowers. And to your point, that red zone analogy, if it saves you 80 yards, if it can get me 80% of the way there, I'll happily do the last 20%. And in fact, it'll help me be better in that last 20% because I'm going to have a heck of a lot more time, energy, resources to invest into those critically important parts of any project that I'm working on. So Garrett, you've been a wealth of knowledge. I knew that time would fly by with you today, but I always love asking this question at the end of every episode because it's super broad. I never know which direction guests are going to take it in, and that's particularly true of you because you have such a depth and breadth of business experience and knowledge. And that question is, what's your best piece of advice for listeners? Knowing that we're being listened to by both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all different stages of their own growth journeys, and also knowing that you're one of us, you're a fellow entrepreneur yourself, what's that one thing you want to leave them with today?
I go back to something that it's funny. I thought of a quote a few years back, and then I realized that I didn't come up with it, so that was a huge bummer. But I thought of the quote, needing nothing attracts everything. If you just go through life, at least from my experience, if you go through life not needing anything and just doing what you want to do, you're going to ultimately be really happy, and things are just going to come to you. I mentioned a couple times on this podcast, good karma is just going to come back. I think just needing nothing is going to attract everything to you. I really believe that. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, not only does it make sense, Garrett, but I'm just going to call you out publicly here for the fact that you practice what you preach. I so appreciate the fact that we didn't talk about content creation, but you're a fellow content creator. You've got a YouTube channel, and you're going to drop that link in just a minute for listeners. But what I really appreciate about people like you, Garrett, is that you don't hold anything back. Whether it's our conversation here today, you've just been super generous and open in the way that you show up in service of others. Your YouTube channel, again, you don't hold back. I talk to too many business owners that they're just like, how much is too much to give away. And people like you, Garrett, show that there's no such thing as giving away too much. Like, you just continue to do it and that good karma always comes back. So I love how much that advice ties in. So Garrett, I'm going to kick the microphone back to you. You've got to drop some links for listeners who want to go deeper and not only find out more about the Jones Group, CPA and Advisory, but also your YouTube channel. Drop those links on us. Where should listeners go from here?
Yeah, so first of all, our networking group is theentrepreneurlounge.com. You can also find our CPA firm. It's thejonesgroup.us, .us, not .com. My YouTube channel is just under the Jones Group ADV, and that's how you can find us.
Yes, and listeners, you already know the drill. We're making it as easy as possible for you to find those links down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. Garrett, I didn't realize that your networking group is open to the public. The fact that you guys have a website and domain for that as well. Listeners, make sure you pound those links in the show notes down below. Garrett, we're also linking to your personal LinkedIn down in the show notes too. If people want to reach out and connect to you individually and start having that conversation, clearly you care about listening in those conversations and pointing people in the right direction, even if it doesn't mean that they're going to work with you. So listeners, don't be shy about checking out those links. Otherwise, Garrett, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
All right. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it so much.